Well, 4 users. This is amazing. Concurrent viewers 3. Okay, it's wavering back and forth. 3 users, 4 users. I honestly don't know how much has been captured in this live stream. So I am going to roll back a little bit, exit out of terminal, exit out of this chat because I know that chat has now disconnected. I'm learning my lessons. This is the new chat. Anyone who's here, I encourage you to speak up. I am apparently having bandwidth issues. When last we left off, I was bringing up Linux under terminal. And I had set it as my default for terminal. I had also set it to be full screen. So where I'm at right now, and I might reproduce this because I don't know how much of this was captured in live stream and how much of this got cut off. I'm probably going to have some editing to do. I had added the terminal to my start menu. I had set Ubuntu to be both the default shell and for it to come up full screen. This now is the magic trick. This is the result of the magic trick. See, look at this. It's like you're in Oz. You're not in Kansas anymore. This is what you get when you type wsl space -- install. You wait for that reboot to occur. You give it a username and password. And then you start getting into it through something called Windows Terminal, which seems to be pre-installed now with Windows. Things are a-changing, and I plan on being your guide through these changes. So, it already looks mysterious and befuddling. It already looks like that Wizard of Oz, ignore the man behind the curtain thing, that the skill level of the person doing Linux stuff has already exceeded those trying to follow along. I am going to reproduce this and show you the man behind the curtain and how to get to a screen exactly like this and the few commands that you want to start off with to get yourself acclimated to Linux. And then I'm going to go back and edit this to get out the streaming errors at the beginning so that this watches like a clean video. All right. So the first thing is that I have terminal here. I didn't used to have terminal here. If I unpin it from start, I will now have to find it and get it there. You can still run Ubuntu. It's on your machine. After you do wsl space -- install, you're going to be able to find UBU. Here it is. It's an app. It's an app that brings it up through something much like a command prompt. Oh, no, I changed a setting to make Windows Terminal my default. Okay, but that was under some settings that I changed. Boy, I'd be hard-pressed to find those again. Default Terminal under settings. Let's see if I can get it back to the way it was to show you how to get it to here. All the work of reinstalling a Windows machine to factory default so I can do these things for the first time. It was definitely under settings, and I'm sure it'll come up when I type terminal under search. Terminal settings. Ah, here it is, Windows Terminal. I had set that to the default, but here it normally comes up under Windows Console Host. See, that was the default. So when you bring up Ubuntu normally, part of what's going to give you a bad experience is this tiny little window it brings up. You can't make it bigger. Control plus, no bigger font. If you go full screen, that teeny tiny font there. And I don't even know if you can go true full screen here. Yeah, so you got this border around it. It's awful. It's awful. It's an awful experience. So It half makes me think Microsoft is trying to give you a bad experience with Windows. Let's make sure I'm still streaming. You folks still there? Oh, it goes down to 0. YouTube is not receiving enough for buffering. Ugh. I'm going to keep forging ahead and hopefully salvage this video. You might get hiccups, but it's going to record smoothly, and it will eventually be a good video. It's only 5 minutes in, still streaming. This is still going. So I might go to using screen capture software again. So to make this an acceptable experience involves 2 things. First, and I'll have to undo something to show you the other portion of it. Terminal. And do it quickly so it doesn't confuse you. I get out of full screen mode. I go into settings. And then I go into, there's a few things I did. Interaction, I set this automatically. Selection to clipboard on. You know, repetition isn't bad. So it's just starting in full screen mode that is going to make it confusing showing anyone joining in if the first part of it hadn't recorded properly. I made the font bigger, and it's on startup. Startup is the key thing. Launch mode. I have it on full screen. I'll set it to default. Save. Close. Close all tabs, that's fine. Okay, so here you have what Linux looks like normally when you do Wsl install and you find the Ubuntu icon and you load it. This is bad. This is not a good experience. It's not going to encourage you to do Linuxy stuff, right? It's a little tiny window. Very discouraging. So what you really want to do is you want to find Windows Terminal. So you click the logo, or if you have the search thing still showing, and you start typing terminal. You find it. You pin it to start. So I guess you got to right click it, pin it to start. That's step 1. Now you can access terminal real easily all the time here. See? Oh, I put it in a subfolder. Didn't mean to do that. That's just like an iPhone. I didn't know Windows 11 did that. All right. Yes, it will. I forget what I said that you're responding, yes, it will. Great to hear from you, Joseph. You can elaborate on what you're answering, yes, it will, to. There's a little bit of time delay that confuses me here. But you need to get terminal accessible. And if you don't have it, you get it from the Microsoft Store. You need this. It's going to enable Linux to look good, to feel good, to be more than this tiny little portal. So, you know, we're trying to get to Wonderland. We're trying to get to Oz, right? The whole Zen of Linux thing. And to make it feel like the operating system of your computer, it's got to be full screen. So to get this thing full screen, 2 things left. First, you run it, and it's going to run not full screen, right? It's going to run much like it would as a partial screen app in the default, whatever size you left it off at. So we'll make it so that it actually looks like one of those windows that is partial screen size. Playing these video games, I hate Windows in general. It's not just Windows from Microsoft. I don't like the idea of Windows as a user interface device. This game of moving things around is horrible. So it's just a floating box, just like when you ran it from the icon. See? I'll pin that up as well. Pin to start, so you can see what we're talking about here. Is the user interface that comes from this here versus the user interface that comes from here. The user interface that comes from terminal is better. So to make it better, and to make the other one, to make this one better because the setting, this is probably what Joseph was talking about. It'll use the terminal. Yeah, there you go. So the couple of settings I'm about to do here change it to use the terminal. Some are inside the terminal program, and then some are from the settings program itself. So the ones, I'll cover the ones from inside the terminal program first since I'm here. You want it to open full screen, and for that you go into settings. And the few things you do in settings right away here that are just so important is on startup, launch mode, full screen. The next thing you do is interaction, automatically copy selection to clipboard, turn it on. And then the third thing is here under defaults, appearance, pump that font size up. I like 20. Might be too big for you. I like 20. Okay. Somewhere there's a prompt that appears saying if you want to use this as your default terminal, click in here in settings, but we know it's under the Windows settings as opposed to terminal settings. We've made our changes here that we want. Bigger font size, automatically copy to clipboard. Your life will just be so much easier. And yeah, the bigger font size and full screen on startup. Startup, launch mode, full screen. Those three things. And now you're in Wonderland, or Oz if you prefer, because Oz is a lot more friendly than Wonderland. If you want friends with you, go to Oz. That's why I named mine Oz instead of Wonderland. My last one was Wonderland, or Lundervond in particular. Let me just make sure I saved. Close all tabs, which is always fine. A weird thing is that you can close these things on Linux and it just doesn't care. Windows has worked that out really sweet. Yeah, greater than 30-second lag. Hopefully it's not hiccuping. I hope this is a good preserved video. I don't mind the lag. It's time delay. It's just like live TV, right? I wish there was a way I could say delete what was about to be broadcast using that time delay, but I guess we're getting to that, right? Oz and Wonderland are just becoming real, right? A big subtext here. Oz and Wonderland are upon us. These are almost real things. These virtual realities and augmented realities that people are talking about, and different APIs to living in life are upon us. And the old school ways are most powerful. The old school ways are the strongest. The old school ways are what everyone has yielded to and made, room for. This is Microsoft making room for Linux. They're stepping aside. They're stepping to the side. So without further ado, I will show you what happens here under terminal. It's probably going to be wrong. It'll probably be PowerShell first. No, it's perfect. It's excellent. But it probably is not going to be correct when we go over here. As Joseph was pointing out, this is still using command prompt, DOS, whatever it is, just build in old-fashioned Windows stuff that didn't scale very well. So the final thing you do under settings now, the real Windows settings, not terminals settings, is you find terminal settings under Windows settings. Terminal. And terminal settings. Which choose the default terminal app to host command line apps. You just switch it from the default, which is Windows console host, to Windows terminal, and now you have it. This is we have now sprinkled all the magic fairy dust onto Windows 11 that is required for both your old Ubuntu icon to be full screen. That's good. That's nice. I like that. Or you could likewise use this terminal icon. Now, why am I doing this all under Windows 11 when it's just so much better under, say, Chrome OS or a machine that you just install Ubuntu on natively? It's because everyone's on Windows 11. The hardware is just so friggin' good. And no matter what Orthodox Celtic prayer says about his $200 machine, getting a machine like this for $800, and that was probably over a year ago now. These types of things might be down to $600. Shop around a bit, but the Intel-based hardware, because everyone wants ARM now, but the Intel-based Microsoft Surface laptops that will give you no driver problems at all and work with a stylus super well. I won't ramble on about the styluses. I've talked about those a lot. Will give you a fabulous Linux experience, transition you into Linux very well. So speaking of transitioning you into Linux, I'll just do these final things, which I'm not sure if it got in the stream or not. You new to Linux, drop your butt in Oz. What do you do next? You just ls. You're in your home directory and haven't put anything in your home directory, so there's not going to be anything there. You don't really know where you are. It's showing you the shortcut for home. This tilde doesn't mean anything to you yet because you're new to Linux. You don't know that's the shortcut for home, so it helps to type pwd for print working directory. Where am I? Oh, that tilde must mean I'm in /home/username, Ubuntu. Well, does it always show tilde? Is it always that shortcut? No. If you cd ... it'll suddenly show you, oh, you are in the home directory. We're not showing you the tilde anymore. We can't show you the shortcut for home. You need to know these things. This is learning Linux. This is learning Linux. This is learning Linux. Okay. Want to get back there? Well, there's a shortcut for that. cd // You're back home. cd ... will bring you up again. Wait, what do you mean ... Well, everything has a ... in there. ... means for one directory up. Dot stands for where you are. You can tell this by going ls-a. Show even the invisible things that are there. Oh, well, in my /home directory, there's a where I am. There's a one directory level up. And then there's my username, my home directory. I can get to any of those three. Well, let me try getting to cd . Oh, that's the same place I am. If I pwd, I'm still where I was. Can I go even higher? Can I go one up from home? cd ... Where am I now? pwd. I'm at /. What is /? / is root, my friends. This is the most powerful location to be in a Unix/Linux system. If we ls here, even without an A, you're going to see a lot of stuff. You're going to see a directory structure, which is a structure you will see repeated everywhere. Sometimes you go into these directories and you see that same directory structure. At first, it doesn't seem to make sense, but over time, it will make sense. I'll give you an example. The best example here is USR. Sound like something? User? Oh, well, if you're in a directory right now, root, that is powerful, chances are your things you can do are limited. You wouldn't be able to do much here. You don't have the permissions. Where might you go to have the permissions of a user? Oh, cd usr user. ls? Oh, there's some familiar looking directories. They're not terribly different looking from the directories above. Are there any that repeat? Yeah, they both have a bin. Not as repeating as I thought, but you'll see some overlap. The libs directories. Local is a place you can really write. When you want to get down to writing some local files, you couldn't do much better than cd local /user/local ls. We'll see if there's anything in there. Now you're starting to see those directories repeated again. This is crazy. Wait, there's an etc at root, and there's an etc in /user/local. Well, yeah, where are you going to put your config files if you can't write them into etc of root because you're not a super user? They're not going to go into your home directory because your home directory are things that are like data saves. I mean, it does end up being some configuration stuff that could also live in /user/local/etc, right? If there was one other place that was like, there's no place like home. Well, slash etc. You got to be careful when you do your directories from here, because slash etc would have put me back in this one, but cd etc will put me back in the one relative from here. This is learning Linux. Do you begin a cd command with a slash? When you begin a cd command with a slash, if I were to do cd slash etc, that means put me in the etc directory relative to root. That's this one up here. No, 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 my friends. I want to go into this one here. So this one here has a few different potential names. Can you guess? Well, sure. Just etc. It would prefer this one over this one. But if you wanted to get rid of ambiguity, if you wanted to be to be very explicit language, we would go into the etc that is relative to where I am, but you can't just do .etc, it's ./etc. From where I am, go into the etc directory. There's no place like home, except /user/local/etc. That's a little bit like home. ls, nothing in there. But if your programs were to keep config files, your vimrc, which you're going to be learning a lot about, normally your vimrc is going to be kept in your home directory, /home/username. If it were to ever be kept anywhere else, it would be here. This is learning Linux. It's writable because it's a user space. It's the local user space. It's the etc. files in local user space. There's a kind of Ken Thompson-y logic that will start to emerge over time. It's not immediately clear. It is not expected to be immediately clear. It takes practice like anything else. Whew. Okay, so I'll get out of full screen because you've seen it in full screen mode, and if people are typing to me, I can't see. Now, why Windows 10? Hey, you got arrow snap. That's pretty neat. Say something, Joseph. Is this on track? Am I telling the people the right things? Joseph, who goes back as long as I do on this stuff. This hasn't been mainstream for a long time. It's mainstream now because everyone has accepted it. It has, from the back-end system, bullied everyone into yielding and crying uncle. Apple yielded and cried uncle years ago in the change from OS 9 to OS X. Microsoft is now yielding and crying uncle in the addition of WSL in such an easily invocable way under Windows 11. This is new. The time is ripe. So I love living in Vim. I'm going to go back to home for a minute, and I'm going to show you me living in Vim for a moment just to enumerate some ideas. Thank you, Joseph. So I'll probably be editing this to get rid of the rough start at the beginning, but live is good. Rough is good. We are all running up against obstacles in life, and we're being very demoralized against many of these obstacles. And Unix is one of the most demoralizing things out there. Hey, Han, how you doing? Good to see you. And it doesn't have to be that way. So it takes a little bit of indoctrination. Don't you hate that word? Indoctrination. It sounds like a cult, okay? But to get through that indoctrination phase, you do little mind tricks to show you, that tornado, that whirlwind, that, tornado that picks up your house and carries you and drops you in the middle of Oz is not as scary as it, seems at first. And the way you make it not scary is you put it in an environment where you can control your font. I talk about breathing exercises all the time. Just merely being able to control your font size with control plus and minus is a lot like breathing exercises. It's a lot like taking control of your, your volume. Because you're squinting, there's nothing more demoralizing than squinting at small type. And if you don't know it can come up large on your screen, you're always going to have this animal level aversion to Linux. You're going to not like it. Now, one of the great favors that's been done here is the color coding choice. Like whatever Microsoft and Canonical and Ubuntu has done with this color coding stuff, it's great. Your login And you are user Ubuntu. I am user Ubuntu. You are whatever username you are. At what? At the machine name you gave it when you created your Windows machine. It's your Windows host name that it borrowed here and is using on the Linux side, so that you can, get a cutesy feeling. I am user Ubuntu at Oz. I'm Dorothy at Oz, right? My username could just as easily have been Dorothy here. And these are the mental trick favors you do for yourself so that you feel like you're somewhere familiar. The Emerald City, I like the green, right? Where you are is green. Who you are is green. Who you are in the land you're in. Who you are and the land you're in is green. Now your path is blue. Your path is normally just this tiny little tilde, which you need to know. And your prompt is usually this $, which means things aren't dangerous, right? Show me the money. I can do things and I can make money without it blowing up on me. It's not shouting at me like a hashtag, oh, be careful, be careful. What would it look like if it was shouting at you like a hashtag to be careful? Well, let's promote ourselves with super user do, sudo. I call it sudo, but I realize now the pronunciation probably should be sudo, super user do, su. Promote yourself to super user. Super user do, become a super user. It's going to prompt you for your password that you gave it when you set up your after the first reboot, after doing Wsl install. It asks you for this stuff. Remember it. Okay. You're no longer Ubuntu at Oz. You're now root at Oz. Oh, you are the wizard. You are now the man behind the curtain. So what you never want to do is cd to root as root, and then type a command such as rm, which means remove, -rf, which means recursive and forced, and then /, which means from where I am, and asterisk, which means everything underneath where I am. Enter. No, I'm not going to do enter, but if you want to, you certainly can. You want to see it? We're on a Windows 11 system, so I'll do a little side thing here, right? We'll bring up the... bring that up one more time. Oh my goodness, users, say something. I know Han is with me. I know Joseph is with me. So I'm going to search on Linux. Now this is my distro of Linux. Control-Shift-B, because you don't need to see my icons, none of your business. And there's a bunch of different ones. It's interesting seeing it on a new machine. It definitely favors GitHub. That's not bad. Here's my article on it. You can learn about it. What it's not favoring is just Levinix.com. I'm going to have to tend to that. Oh, this is Bing. Oh, silly Bing. No, not Microsoft. What the heck am I doing? Google. So I will have to tend to that. My SEO, I need a little more Bing kung fu in my SEO. But you go to Levinix here, and GitHub still preferential treatment. But here is the slideshow site. Slideshow site that walks you through the philosophy of my version of Linux, which is just a respin. I didn't, I mixed stuff together like a magic cocktail more so than did anything really impressive. So we can go into Windows key E. Learn it. Windows key E is your friend, even though it's a Microsoft specific one. And let's see these folks here. Hello, Hans. Yep. RM is not effective enough. Better use DD. Thank you. Do not RM. Okay. Well, I'm going to RM RF. I'm going to show you SEO Kung Fu. That's right. That's my real field here. I'm an SEO. So I go into my downloads directory. I go into Levinix, which I just downloaded. I extract all. I extract it. This is like before Windows subsystem for Linux was around, before a lot of things were around, before Jupyter was around. I needed to have a Noah's Ark for mostly Python code running on Nix systems. So I was like, QEMU is written for everything. QEMU is a PC emulator that is public domain, free and open source. It's written for Macs. It's written for Windows. And so if I just made this tiny little thing that ran with a double click on the desktop of a Mac or the desktop of Windows, I'd be made in the shade. So I did that. I did better than that. It'll run with a double click from the desktop of Windows, Macs, or other Linux desktops like GNOME. So let me do this one here, which is made for Windows. And you got to give it the typical, yes, Microsoft, I really do want to do this. I know what I'm doing. I want to allow access to the firewall. I want to let it really unencrypt. And I want it to happen fast enough so that it gets its files. This first phase doesn't actually fetch anything off of the internet. This first phase builds a tiny little server using local files that I ship with this. So even if you don't say yes to that firewall answer quickly enough, it'll still build tiny font problems. You're probably not ever, oh yeah, you can fix that. Hey, way to go, Windows 11, nicely done. That's just hardware scaling of, mapping pixels to pixels and stuff. And it usually doesn't take this long after the first time. The first time it's building a server. So is loading some extensions. I went through all this fancy stuff for Tiny Core Linux, the way Tiny Core Linux works, in order to make this happen, this magic here. This is building a server. It's copying Dropbear, which is an SSH server. It's copying BusyBox, which is a web server. No, SSH server, web server. It's copying over a few other things. And now it has run. It has run like that. It'll run like that. And you can log into that. You can do stuff to get into that. So, exit to console is 2. 2, enter. Exit to console. On the prompt, you're about to see password is foo. Press enter to proceed. Log in. TC is the user. Password is foo. Okay. So we are currently, and if you want your cursor back, it's Control-Alt, maximize, okay? So you can see it. I give my tiny little Alice in Wonderland thing. Perhaps you're going to want to do something a little less destructive than, is it Joseph who really wants me to use DD? Who wants me to use DD? Do not do. All right, yes, I am going to in my Levinix, just to make the point here. Oh, I better get rid of that, because one hit on enter, and that is foobarred. And also your site performance, accessibility, best practice. I know what's going on with the Levinix.com site. It's that I'm using the special slideshow software that's not standard HTML. It's not going to be seen by anything that's not rendering. Yeah, well, a long story, another video. DD equals disk destroyer. So Han, how do I do that command? Is it just DD by itself? Do I have to give it a particular drive? I'm going to do it the way I know. It's not good enough, but it's pretty darn good. So that command I had staged here, which having promoted ourselves to root, see, all color coding is gone because root doesn't need no stinking color coding. Yep, here we go. This is Levinix. You can see that same $sign. We're in home, tilde, all the same stuff. TC at box, right? You can see all this. This is 2 different versions of Linux you're seeing. We're root at Oz as super user because of this. If I exited from here, now we're back to Ubuntu at Oz as non-super user and in the home directory, right? So you start to get a feel for these locations. So I could do sudo su here, promote myself to being the root at the box, still in the home directory of the user I just was, but I can go to cd root ls-la, There's a lot of fun, neat stuff there. Clear it, rm-rf, remove, recursive forced, and I am super user now. I don't have to put sudo in front of this, /*, enter. Boom, 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 boom. All that /proc directory, that's interesting. That's where all the processes are running. A lot of permissions denied, but that's because it's like stuff running in memory, really. Everything's a readable, writable file, even the processes running in memory. Unix is really nuts. Some people get into it really deeply. There's a lot of almost spiritual stuff in there. Ken Thompson was quite a guy. Is quite a guy. Ken Thompson is not a national treasure. Ken Thompson is an international world planet Earth treasure. So are a few other folks out there. Rob Pike, who he works with, Bill Joy, who wrote VI. These people are just living, evolutionary mutations on Earth. So we can just let that run. That doesn't take that much resources. Oh, replace X with drive letter. Oh, nice. Yeah. So let's do that. I taught you about everything here that's necessary to teach you, except, it's a master system. It's your Linux system. If you mess things up, you're going to have to reinstall Ubuntu. It's not the worst thing. It's way better than it used to be. It's not as easy as containerization or virtualization. So we're going to get to that real soon. I told you I was going to tell you some Vim stuff. So Vim notes.md. I'll let you see Markdown. It's a decision. If you do txt, you won't see Markdown highlighted. But if you do MD and you use Markdown in it, you'll see some stuff. And so first of all, Vim space file name, right? This is a advanced. You guys are competing for how best to nuke a system. Please carry on. Let me see if I can make your font bigger here. Yeah, okay. Be evil. Don't use curse words. But aside from curse words, be as evil as you want. I'm in Vim, and I'm going to make some notes here. Some of these notes are... Give me a moment to go into fuse state and channel, okay? Whenever I talk about Azrael, I'm talking about this superhero from the comics, Azrael. Superhero or bad guy, it's not entirely sure. He's a little bit of a religious fanatic, and he took over for Batman. It really pissed Robin off, I'll tell you. Robin wanted to be the replacement Batman. Batman didn't ask him to be. Batman didn't ask him to be because, he didn't wish it on his worst enemy. So Azrael ought to be fine. And Azrael went into fuse states and came up with stuff, just by going to sleep at night. But here, what do I want to do with you folks as the next step? Honestly, get to Vim ASAP. That's where I am now. You think in Vim, you act in Vim, everything is Vim. I can quit out of that. I do an ls now from home. There's something there. There's nodemd. I can get back into it with vim.node. There's the file back. Now, there's some stuff that you need to know, like command mode versus insert mode. You're naturally in command mode. You can't just start typing in Vim. So :q is for quit. So if you do Vim space file name, the most important thing to know is :q for quit. Okay? Now, if you actually want to write something in Vim, you need to know to hit I to go into insert mode, but that's going to insert from where your cursor is. That's no good. So what you really want to do is hit escape key, get out of insert mode, and then hit O to start to get into insert mode on the next line. And I'm going to do all this much slower in the future. But it starts to become very, very internalized in a way. So get to Vim as soon as possible. That's where I am now. Why? Because Vim is life. Vim is thought. Vim is power in the Nix world. And there's that markdown formatting. So if I were in text mode, I wouldn't have to put a backslash before it to escape it. But it needs to be escaped to not allow the italicizing to keep trailing. That should give me some benefits like, oh, I can't do Control-V to get into visual insert mode. Let me make the font a little smaller. Control-Shift-V. No. Control-V. Yeah, I need some stuff I need to figure out. There's Control key wrangling because Control keys sometimes belong to the host operating system, which really messes things up with visual block select mode in Vim. I never want to give up visual select mode. So there's going to be some things I teach you about how to smooth out some of the rough edges in WSL. It's not perfect, but you know, in the voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger, get your ass to Vim as soon as possible. Some other things I'm going to tell you about is containerization is cool and easy and not Docker. It is LXD for the service and LXC for the files. Containerization is cool. It keeps you from nuking your main Linux instance. Not too bad these days, because you can reinstall Ubuntu under WSL, which is this Windows subsystem for Linux that I've been talking about. And you can see, even when I make mistakes, it's not too bad. So here's something fun. That's line wrap. I don't like line wrap, so set no wrap. It'll go off the right-hand side, one long line. I'll set my TW, my text width equals, I have to use the word set, :set, text width equals a nice conservative, say 40 characters. I did that wrong because I put a space there. And now I can do VIPGQ and it'll wrap it at 40 characters. 40 is too small. Let's make that 55. VIPGQ. So hard returns are really not the showstopper that people think they are. Hard returns are very nice inside of text files that are meant to be readable by everyone under all conditions, because you don't want those single lines running on forever like the way word processors do it. You want to insert hard returns so that when you pull it up on any system, it cuts off at a controlled length. But most people can't wrangle hard returns. But hard returns are easy to wrangle. If I wanted it just a little wider, I set my text width to 60. Usually people set it to 80, but now V for visual mode, I for something, P for paragraph, VIPG for formatting, Q for reformat. You know, I couldn't even tell you. I don't think in English anymore on this. And you can see the highlighting is terrible compared to the highlighting on my slightly more customized thing, but I'll walk you through all that as well. So these are the things I'll be bringing you through, because you need this and this. See, it's not as nice as my Green Lantern highlighting. You need LXD and LXC to have the kind of confidence I'm showing you here. Now I'm going to reset this. I'm going to reset my Linux and use the other method of nuking it, because you can just go into reset from Windows, and you'll see a QCal file copied out here. It's probably going to make me Windows saying, don't do this. You don't really want to do this, do you? Yeah, I really want to do it. So you'll see this QCal file appear. Just in case there was data you wanted to get back, you could still always get it back, not a problem. But now, when I go up that one directory level higher and run Linux for Windows, it is going to do the server rebuild again. You don't have to sit there and wait for it, but after that server rebuild is done, I'll use one of the commands you guys gave me on how to nuke the system. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, okay, Han is giving me the, I'll put that in my copy buffer right now. Yeah, I don't know my drive name, even under Linux. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't. Am I missing anything up here that you guys said? Disk Destroyer, SEO Kung Fu, learned about Google Lighthouse not long ago. Yeah, very useful tool for SEO. Haven't used Lighthouse. Most of Lighthouse's stuff, I think, is just built into, what is it? Their quality stuff. There's page speed tool. Yeah. Oh, QEMU has stopped working. Close program. All right, that'll happen. Maybe it'll take a reset. Maybe it'll start rebuilding it from scratch. But I'll take a look at what you guys are saying again. You know, I'll just pull this over here. Linux on top of Linux. Why not? Nested Linux. Stupid Linux tricks. So this box over here is Vim under WSL under Windows. And this is a server build under QEMU. Well, I guess under Windows as well. Yeah, replace X with a drive letter. I don't even know enough to do that. I guess I could look. There's a command to list my drive letters. I'm not as good at all the sysadmin stuff under Linux as I really should be, which is part of what my lesson is. I use Linux as a doorway to Vim and as a doorway to Python. fdisk is very effective. Yeah, set multiple columns, 80 and 120, yeah. You know, I'm always using 80 as my default, Han, and then I just override it. I might temporarily turn TW off. If you want TW turned off, and I won't do it right now because it'll flip this one to the back. Oh, well, what does it matter, right? We just change our sizes. So if you want to turn your text wrap off, you just go TW equals 0. And now text, oh, you got to use set TW equals 0, and now your text wrap is turned off. So you just keep typing foo yank, not yank because that'll get the line return 0 V shift 4 back 1 with H yank. Now you can paste your foos and it'll just keep going off to the right forever. And a VIPGQ, I don't even know what that uses. It uses maybe your text width. Let's test. I mean your terminal width. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, VIPG with text wrap turned off, VIPGQ will wrap to whatever Vim detects as your terminal width, which amazingly it updates as you move. So one of my big lessons in teaching people Linux is that Linux is anything for anyone, right? There's so many. Oh, check your drive names. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's nuke our system, and I'll replace the drive name. So I want to get into the console too. To get into the console, it's going to prompt me for login. TC will be my username. Foo will be my password. Oh, press enter to proceed. Okay. TC, foo. All right, we're logged in. Sudo su, and we're now a super user there. And then get your cursor back with Control Alt. And so I want this command here, ddif dev0 of equals dev sdk sdx, right? So the x, I presume, is the drive letter that we were talking about. So I use lsblk to see my drive letters. lsblk. What am I doing wrong? Well, I am on BusyBox too, so you know I've got a very limited set. Linux drive letters, list Linux drive letters. Yeah, they're saying LSBLK. Maybe I'm typing it wrong. Is that ISBI? No, it's got to be LSBLK. I am sure I'm typing that right. Let's see. LSHW. Now see, it's BusyBox. It has such a small df-h. Yeah, that works. Okay, so these are my drives. Sorry how tiny it is on the screen for you. So I have SDA1. So there's logical and physical stuff. I guess SDA1 and SDB1. Yeah, I have a few drives. I remember it's coming back to me. I did this years ago. I mean, literally, it's got to be 10 years ago that I set these things up. So I have multiple drives for different purposes, so that this whole reset stuff works and everything. So I'll give it a shot. I really don't know. DD if equals /dev/0 space OF equals /dev/ yeah, and this is where the drive letter SDA1 space BS equals 1M. Some powerful voodoo, right? Control Alt to get my pointer back, go full screen. We'll see what happens, right? Better way to nuke the system. It's not as glorious of feedback than, you know, recursive forced removes. I mean, I don't see the glorious blowing up. I bet it does better. Let's see if I can even understand what it's doing. DD, destroy disk. IF, so, you know, OF. So that it's clearly an I for input and an O for output. So I is input file, dev0. Oh, it's taking input from dev0 and it's writing out to dev SDA1. It's writing 0 bits. And BS is a bit stream of 1 megabyte. So it's taking 1 megabyte bit stream bytes from dev0, which is just a string of zeros, and it's writing them to dev SDA1, because remember I said everything in Unix and Linux is a readable and writable file. So my whole hard drive, what in Windows world we would know as our logical drive, there's physical and logical. Now this might even be the physical one, is having a bit stream just plowed over it. So that's a glorious delete. Thank you for that. Let me make sure I know who to thank. Yeah, that one came from Han. Han, you can do the Kessel run in under 20 parsec. I gotta get my Star Wars quotes right. Should also show you file stream data. Well, again, BusyBox. BusyBox definitely has limitations over the bigger versions. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't try to delete every file. Instead it zeroes it out. Yeah, it zeroes it out. It's a much more low-level operation. So when you're trying to delete every file, you're going to the operating system and you're beholden to what the operating system lets you and doesn't let you do. Even as super user, process file locks are, and they can say no, as you saw, permission denied even to super user. But when you go to a lower level and you say, I don't care about any of that file operating system stuff, this is just a raw bit stream going from this device to that device. Yeah, you end run operating system defenses. Very cool. Anyway, I don't want to get too into the geekhood here, but my notes that I'm giving here are that, get to Vim as fast as possible. Linux is many things for many people. But no matter what it is for you, text is the universal thing, and Vim is the universal text. Text is the universal thing in tech world. And Vim is the universal text, thing. Text is the universal thing, and Vim is the universal text thing. Now, unless you're an Emacs user, but, we'll talk about Emacs later and why I chose Vim and why it's always a good first thing to grab in your toolbox when it comes to text. And so the other thing is that, there are good ways to get undo. There are good ways to get safe practice places, safe places to practice. And easy undos. Oh, see that? I don't have a text wrap on, so it goes to the right. But I know if I do VIPGQ, it'll wrap to whatever my current terminal width is, so that's pretty cool. This is a good live stream. I mean, I really pulled it out of the fire from the beginning where it, wasn't quite cooperating. So let's see how this delete is going. That'll probably go on forever. But, we'll let it go. I think this is a nice video. I think that's a good place to stop. We're going to try and get you to Vim, and we're going to try and get you to using container files for safe places to do experimental stuff, so you don't have to keep reinstalling Ubuntu. Even though it's not as bad as it used to be, it's easier when you can just fire off a quick command and instantiate a new container. Status equals progress and add an argument. Yeah, there's nothing new about the stuff in Linux. Linux is old. It's just a place to kick some tires. In fact, I'm not even going to let it finish. I have confidence it will finish, but it's always safe in Linux to just exit out because, you're not really using it like a real Linux system. So, you want it reset. All that stuff that we just did, you just hit reset from Windows again, and that last QCal file will get overwritten. That's something you need to be aware of. If they're valuable to you, you want to drag it out of location because the next one's just going to write it over in the same place. And then you go a directory level up again, and you run Linux for your operating system, and it'll just do the server build again. This kind of Charlie Brown always landing on his back and always hopping right back up. This kind of Roomba hitting a wall and just coming back from that wall to just, try it again. This is a thing about Linux that generally isn't there, that scares people, really scares them and intimidates them. But it doesn't have to. You see the determination people have with these online games, with the firing and the shooting. And, how can that be? How can people have so much determination when it comes to, imaginary shooting of enemies and then be so easily turned away and intimidated when the prize is so big, when the prize is so much command over tech and by extension, life? And people are like, VS Code, Microsoft gives us VS Code. Yeah, I'm not even going to go down that path. You want generic technology, non-vendor dependent technology, and that's what this is. That's what this is. That's what this, passageway into Wonderland and Oz that Microsoft gives you through Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I know some of you out there have already made the move to better hardware and better presumptions, better core presumptions, like with Chrome hardware, really, in particular, the Chrome hardware, and Chrome OS, which, is when you pull up terminal in there, it's a true Linux Debian. And so the last thing, okay, I was saying get your butt to Vim. You have a massive free and open source software repository. You just apt install some file name. If Vim wasn't already there, it would be app install Vim. But first, you need to update it. App, and you need to sudo for this. Sudo apt update. And since this was a recent install of Linux, the update's going to be pretty big, and you can control minus to get it font size small so it doesn't line wrap so much, and it's a lot easier and prettier to watch doing its update. And it's going to be a bigger update than all the updates that follow. No update is as large as the one that occurs after a fresh operating system install. It's just like on Windows. There's certain realities you can't get away from. The first updating of things after a fresh install that might not be the latest is going to be a pretty big update. So that's what's happening here. And then there's going to be a handful of things that can be upgraded. You can see there are 105 packages that can be upgraded. Run apt list upgradable to see them. You see the copy paste at work. When I highlight and click, it's pasting that stuff in. So if I wanted to run this command, you just highlight it and then right click, left click. I don't know. How did I do that? That was nice. Highlight and then click over here. I know. Yeah, right click. I was right. You can list those packages that are upgradable. I guess we should sudo that. There are our upgradable packages. You could see I did a clear almost by instinct before that. And it almost doesn't really matter what they are. You're going to want to upgrade them. What do you want to have old software on your system? On a fresh install, there's nothing running that's going to break. So sudo apt update. You would think sudo apt upgrade. That might work. I don't know if they have that set for an alias, but it's really sudo apt update. And this will update those 105 packages. Can be upgraded. Sudo. What did I not do? Oh, no, I said it completely wrong. Sudo apt update is the database update. That's what I just did. Sudo apt upgrade, the one that I said it might be, it's not an alias. That is it. First you update, then you upgrade. You update your database, you update your repository database, just the list of what's available. Then you upgrade your already installed software. Both of them need to be sudoed. And you have to answer yes because it's going to be very intrusive on your system. Some will take longer than others. Again, this control over your font size, these little things, just make it so much more of a tolerable environment than when it comes up under the default Microsoft console, where it feels wrong, it feels inferior. But once you, have this, some of the basic expectations that you have from web browsers, it feels a little bit like a web browser in a terminal. Look, that's a redraw problem. That'll happen. I'll get rid of Levinix. We don't really need that loading, but you see the point. The reset will, in fact, reset. Lost my pointer. Sometimes it takes a bit to get your pointer back. Control-Alt. Yeah, there we go. And just X out of it. Don't be scared. Get rid of the redraw problem by scrolling back to the bottom. And while that's going on, I'll just check if people are here. If I'm talking about the things you want to hear talked about, whether it's making sense, whether, I'm going too far with this video or not covering the right things, and just go back to the live stream. Oh, yeah, this. Why isn't this showing up in Bing? Because I'm using, let's see, there's an include. I think the include is at the very bottom of what it is. Yeah, remark. I'm using remark.js. Remark.js. And that turns this into a slideshow. But as you can see, it's all this kind of JSON-y stuff in here rather than a HTML website. And that turns it into this slideshow where it just, talks a little about Levinix from back in the olden days before there were so many other options. For the portability of code, I would just recommend using Jupyter. Jupyter Desktop makes your Python code portable. For things where you would use backslashes, use pathlib to keep your backslashes as forward slashes. You don't even need Unix or Linux in the picture. But when you want high levels of portable code, just use Unix or Linux. Use Linux under Windows subsystem. It eliminates the need for Levinix. The only thing Levinix is now is it's the pane box from Dune. It's a version of Linux you can stick your hand in and go, the pane isn't real, and see if you can keep your hand stuck in the pane box doing various forms of nuking your Linux system. It's good for that. It's fun for that. It's not much good for anything else. It could be used for development work. I've seen and heard of people using it for development work, but honestly, there's such better approaches these days. So yeah, there's still some people here. That's great. Wow. Interesting. This will be a good one. Thanks, folks. If you have anything else you want to say, now's the time to do it, because kind of killing time saying, oh, you should update your software after you've installed Linux. It's like on a Windows system. After you do a fresh install of Windows, you should go in, see if there's any Windows updates to apply. That's the equivalent here. And perfect example of why Linux looks scary. If you want to scare someone and look like a hacker, do sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade. Oh, you're doing hacking. It looks a lot fancier on screen than what it really took to make that happen. %72 done. Time for more stupid Levinix tricks. While that's going on, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. That's this thing here. We'll bring up Levinix one more time. The server build is already done, so watch how fast it comes up now that the server is already built. We'll drop it onto the other screen. We'll make it so we can watch both, sort of, kind of, sort of. What's going on? Will this work? Yeah, it's kind of funny watching Arrow Snap do its thing sometimes. We don't want that in there. It's 96% done. I don't know if there's necessarily going to be time for stupid Levinix tricks, but maybe I'll show you logging into one Linux from the other. Oh, you can't, not easily. They are both on their own separate virtual LANs. They both use the same networking tricks in order to keep things safe and isolated from the rest of the internet. You have to use network address translation to let these things talk up and out into the wild. But PowerShell is running from the context of the host operating system. So PowerShell can log into Levinix pretty easily. And we'll need to get a command to help do it, but Levinix conveniently provides that command. So if you wanted to log into Levinix, oh, this is taking a long time. That's really not what I was expecting. Still not rebuilding the server. It should just pop up without that long scroll. Okay. SSH, you would think TC at localhost -p space 2222 -p. Now, because things have changed on the internet quite a bit, it gives this warning that it doesn't work. And it's like, oh, it isn't working? Well, you can also reach this server at localhost :8080. So let's go over here to a web browser, open a new tab, and go to localhost :8080. Wait, are you saying that's being served from that little server over there? Yes, indeed. Let's pull the Levinix server over to that web browser window. If I were to stop this and do a refresh, it would go away. But let's edit something here and show you. Well, first, let's actually do that, yes. Just prove to you that that's being served from there. You take that one away, the other ceases to be served. The cessation of servation. We'll restart Levinix. Open. It'll be faster now. If you keep it in focus, it's like the olden days. Keeping things in focus makes them faster. Multitasking doesn't mean everything runs at full speed. Gives you the illusion of that sometimes, but really, when things are written in old, poor, inefficient ways, like old versions of QEMU, which is being used here, taking them out of focus might slow them down. We'll get this out of full screen mode. It's not really full screen mode, but we'll just put it over there like that. I know better than to click on that. We'll just click like that. So now we can watch that spin up. And we can have this ready to do a refresh on. All this used to be faster on like a 15-year-old Macintosh under VMware Fusion. I could run VMware Fusion, and that would give me the host instance of the Mac. It would give me a version of Windows XP, and then I would have another version of, say, GNOME, Ubuntu with GNOME or Unity. And then I could run Linux on each of those desktops, the native Mac desktop, the native, the native Mac desktop, the virtual Windows XP desktop, and the virtual Ubuntu desktop, 3 versions of these black little boxes. And that was on really old hardware. People used to be like, that's impossible. Macs are good at optimizing the performance. And see, look, that just came back. So that's being served off of that. And it's telling me the actual SSH command to use because SHA-1 has been cracked. It's an insecure protocol. So you have to explicitly allow it. So instead of using that, short version, it's this longer version saying use this parameter. We have to answer yes. Password is foo. Now we're terminal logged in. This SSH session is to Linux. Want me to prove it? ls cd htdocs. See, all these same things are there. The tilde, the slash, all that stuff. ls and htdocs, vim, index.8. Oh, there is no vim yet because I didn't install it, but there is a vi. And I do my standard favorite trick of an H3. I am SSH'd into this Linux box, into this box. And H3. I'm not going to save it yet. I'll just go over here. You can see there is no H3. There's no headline, subhead, subhead, right? It goes right to this little thing. But I'll go back over here. Escape to get out of insert mode, :W. And I talk about Vim all the time. This is VI, not Vim. But having Vim skills gives you VI skills. Refresh, there it is, your H3. Now watch, I'll show you. I'll bring this over to that first window again, and I'll show you how Xing out of this will break this login session. See, we're actively logged in, and we have VI running under that login shell, under PowerShell. This is different than our Ubuntu session where the updates have finished. See, the updates have finished. This is what generic Linux is like. You're using a lot of terminal shells. So this is logged in from a PowerShell using the SSH program into this little server here. Watch what happens when I just X out of that. This session here ends, see? It became a little cursor. That's back into PowerShell. Redraw problems, but you just clear it to get rid of the redraw problems. And attempting to do that SSH, it just won't connect. That server isn't there anymore. It's trying to attempt to the local host port 2222, which when QEMU, when Linux is running, it's using a port forwarding trick to forward requests to port 2222 to local port 20 on QEMU. Well, anyway, we don't have to get into all those details. So there's nothing more from you guys. I'm going to check if I'm still streaming because this looks like we're getting towards the end. This is the end. I went into way more depth than I had planned. Yeah, some folks are still there. Well, I guess it's time to say goodbye. So let me know if you got any more questions. And yeah, I'll wrap this one up. It's about a 30-second delay. I'll give that full 30 seconds. Close out of PowerShell. You're not in Kansas anymore. This is the best magic trick in all the land. I know a lot of people who follow me already know this stuff better than I do, and they're just getting another geek's perspective on this stuff, and I respect that and love to you all. But I am definitely hoping that I can open the path to people who would like to climb on board this bandwagon and become super powerful in today's world. Old school skills make you, those notes that I was making, right? I don't even need to find it in command line history. It's Vim notes. The idea here is we're making you, making you future-proofed, right? Future-proofing your skills. This is life after VS Code and Node.js. Those are less fundamental than you think. And even if not, the scrap and rebuild / relearning rate will burn you out. This approach will not. This approach, once you really have a handle on generic Linuxy, Unixy things, and then Vim and Python and Git, Linux, Vim, Python, Git, Microsoft bought all of it, except for Vim, which they made VS Code for to replace in people's hearts and stuff. So, yeah, getting to Vim as soon as possible, and that'll probably be the next videos, because I think these have very sufficiently gotten people through that first step of Wsl install and then what to do after Wsl install. Some very simple commands: the ls command, the ls-la command, the cd ... command, cd ... again, pwd to see where you are, cd / / to get back to home, pwd again to see that you are home, clear because things get messy, Vim tutor to get an introduction to Vim, control minus because you gotta change your font size, control plus and minus, and that's pretty much it. Seems like there's quiet from the peanut gallery, so I'll figure I'm finished here. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much. And yeah, next video for anyone who's not a Vim head yet, or Neo Vim or whatever, VI. I'll cover the big picture again. I know in my earlier videos, I gave big picture starting out with, Multics leading to Unix, leading to Linux. Big picture stuff is good. There's big picture stuff with VI and Vim and text editors and the text editor war between Emacs and VI. And, why this is something to have in your back pocket. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell, all that happy stuff you do here in the tubes. Oh, it's so painful to log out while there's still concurrent viewers, but gonna do it. End stream.